I came aboard in fall of 1958, and through a series of tests and practical experience, I became the battle stations diving officer, which actually meant I was the guy that took the ship down the first time. We worked our way down to test depth. You do that in increments, 100-foot increments, and each 100 foot you stop and check for leaks. And if there are no leaks, you keep moving on down. And once we got down to test depth, which for the Triton was 800 foot, then we were able to come up near the surface, back down. We put it through its paces, you know, right full rudder, left full rudder, and it had tremendous speed. I was like a new kid, you know, with his parents' new car. I was checking it out. I recall we didn't hear the official word until we'd been out a couple days. And the plan was to make sure everything was going to work before we headed on to sea. And I was standing in the after torpedo room when Captain Beach made the announcement that we were going to go around the world submerged. And I guarantee you could hear a pin drop. What? Yeah. Oh my goodness. But it was very quiet and everybody just stared at each other. And he said, the word was out before that we were going to go some tropical island, maybe down in the Caribbean. So everybody was coached to, you know, bring some tropical gear, swim gear, you know, aloha shirts. We didn't need them. We didn't need them at all.
Port of Benton Official Proclamation 2501 honoring USS Triton veterans and dedicating a commemorative wall at the USS Triton Sail Park. Whereas USS Triton SSRN 586 was one of the first nuclear-powered submarines operated by dual nuclear reactors, direct descendants of Hanford reactors, and whereas in 1960, in a historic first mission, Triton covered 26,723 nautical miles, completely submerged, and generally followed the around-the-world route explorer Ferdinand Magellan had attempted to navigate in 1521. And whereas in May of 1960, President Dwight D. Eisenhower presented Captain Edward L. Beach Jr. with a Legion of Merit, and Secretary of the Navy William B. Frank presented Triton's officers and crew with the Presidential Unit Citation. And whereas Triton stayed in operation until May 1969, and during its years of service served as a temporary home to 857 chief petty officers, and enlisted personnel. And whereas Triton performed several vital missions, demonstrating the capabilities of the first generation nuclear-powered submarine and American military and technological dominance during the Cold War. And whereas the USS Triton Sail Park commemorative wall located at 3300 Port of Benton Boulevard in Richland, Washington, stands as a tribute to the dedication and sacrifice of all the individuals who served aboard Triton. And whereas this wall served as a symbol of remembrance and gratitude for the community. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Port of Benton Commission expresses its sincere and truly wholehearted appreciation to all USS Triton officers and crew who served aboard Triton throughout its commissioning, and do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2025 as a day of celebrate Triton's veterans, commemoration of the USS Triton Sail Park, and reflect upon their sacrifices and honor to their legacy.
It's really a tribute to the submarine service and the men that served there. Just the list of the crew, 870 some odd people, right? Give or take. And I mean, I made 3 submerged cruises on this, 70 plus days, and the submarine was active from almost 10 years, and I was 20% of that. So, and I'm still talking about it to this day. I rode a couple of diesel boats, and they were exciting as well, but this one went under and stayed under. Oh, seeing this brought back a lot of memories. I was a shark shooter on the top of this. I would take an M14 rifle up when we had man overboard drills, or being inside in the helm, sitting at the helm. It was just awesome, yeah. So I went down the hatches of both of them, and I actually put my hands on them 60 years ago. So it's really a treat.
Thank you so much for joining us as we recognize and celebrate the veterans of USS Triton SSRN 586. I am Summers Mia, the Public Information Officer for the Port of Benton. I've had the honor and the privilege of working with the Triton veterans and other veterans groups to plan today's event. Now, representatives from the United States Submarine Veterans Inland Empire Base and USS Triton veteran John Wicks will lead the tolling of the boat's ceremony.
I'm John Wicks. I was a lonely fire control technician aboard Triton for several years, and it's just a pleasure to see a lot of old faces and some new faces. It's terrific. Great turnout. Kudos to the Port of Benton and their super PIO Summers Mia. Also, I think we've got some veterans, other submarine veterans here. Can I hear you? There you go. We've got some base commanders here that I'd like to mention. We've got Rick Nult, Jim DeMont, Rick Vilsky, and I think I missed somebody. And Rick is going to help me on this bell ceremony. The bell ceremony goes back a long time. It's kind of a at every meeting, most meetings, certainly when we talk about the people that are no longer with us. There's a lot of the bases go through this bell ceremony, and we'd like to do it today. It'll be a little abbreviated. We have 857 names over here that were on Triton for the 9 years and 8 months it was in commission. We're not sure exactly how many are not with us, okay? But we assume about 50%. So we certainly are missing, all our captains, the 4 captains that we had. Captains Beach, Moran, Rollins, and Wadsworth. And one in particular, we had a Medal of Honor person ride the Triton and had left it, of course, and he's passed on. Ken Charette, thank you. So those are just particular, but we got another 425 or whatever it is, that have gone on. So I'd like to start off, though, in 3 segments. We had one individual that passed on that was on duty. He was a topside watch, named Dale Franklin Ellerwood. He's only 23 years old. He'd only been on board Triton, I don't know, about a year or something like that. And he did a slip and fall. Is Hal here? Hal Oberg? There you go. Hal and I came back from watching a Triton football game, chatted with Dale briefly, and then we went down the after torpedo room hatch, and then boom. A couple of minutes later, on the 7MC, I'm sorry, we heard he was gone. We were looking for him. Long story short, he did a slip and fall on the back. He was looking over to catch the draft, and apparently he slipped and fell, knocked himself out, and we found him underneath the screws around 4 o'clock in the morning. He was the only one. His wife was 3 months pregnant. We celebrated him also in 2014 because it was 50th anniversary of his passing. So we'd like to celebrate him one more time. Like to think about him. We're going to have a bell, and then we're going to have a moment of silence. Okay, the next 2 people specifically we'd like to chat about are two of the folks that kind of helped us just a year and a half ago put together a reunion that we had up in Charleston, and we had close to 100 people there. We had about, I think, 35 or 38 crew members at that time could show up, and the rest were friends and family. But we want to thank or remember. Thank you very much. That was going to become important. Raucous. We want to recognize Dave Kutzko and Howie Sassman. We worked with them very hard. Mike McCoy and I worked very hard to put that together, and then they really helped. And within 3 or 4 or 5 months, they were gone. And it tells you, I don't think there's anyone here or on Triton anymore that's alive that's younger under 80. We're all 80 and up. There's always a smart one who would screw me up. That's the way the crew was, Anyway, okay, so we got one, But probably the average age is 85, 86, and we got one we had someone here in the 90s, don't we? 92, and he works. He runs around like he's 18 years old. So at this time, I'd like to recognize everyone that has passed, the 400 and change that we believe have already gone on. They've got their oars in the water, and we'd like to. Well, first let's take the two. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The second one. Those two, Dave and Howie. Okay, and lastly, let's recognize everyone else that has passed on. Their oars are in the water. They've gone on, and hopefully down the road we'll all get together in a big reunion. What do you think? All right. Lights were dimmed, candles lit, and then the bell was tolled. Some prayers were said as we bowed our heads, as we watched the ceremony unfold. Names were called of those who died. They were shipmates and our friends. The bell was tolled for each of them. Their lives had come to an end. And as we stood in silent prayer with thoughts of what used to be, we're saddened that our friends are gone, but their souls are free. We remember them for what they are, shipmates, young and old. Our prayers go out to each of them whenever the bell is tolled. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now I'm pleased to introduce Porta Benton Executive Director, Diane Howard.
Thank you, Summers. Hello. It is terrific to see everyone here today. Thank you for coming to help us pay tribute to the veterans of the USS Triton. Porta Benton worked with the U.S. Navy to preserve Triton Sail and Conning Tower for public display, and we preserved them here in the USS Triton Sail Park, which was dedicated on November 10th, 2011, exactly 52 years after Triton's commissioning. At nearly 448 feet long, USS Triton was the longest and most powerful submarine of its day. At the time of its commissioning, Triton was the first and only U.S. submarine to have 2 nuclear reactors, direct descendants of the Hanford reactors. The submarine is best known for its top secret mission called Operation Sandblast, which was on February 4th, 1960. The Pentagon gave secret orders to USS Triton Commander Captain Edward L. Beach that the submarine shakedown cruise, which is the final test of a commissioned naval vessel, would be like no other. Triton would become the first submarine to circle the globe while remaining submerged and undetected. The venture was well documented with several photographers aboard in Triton's log, which we actually have on display later this afternoon. It's an interesting and entertaining read and written by Captain Beach. The undersea operation would prove the American military might and technological capabilities of the first generation of nuclear-powered submarines during the Cold War. The mission also served a vital scientific purpose. The crew and the team of 8 technical and scientific personnel conducted research about Triton, our oceans, the sea floor, and the crew. Only the officers knew that Triton would be at sea for more than 80 days, which is double the anticipated duration. The crew learned about the secret exploit 2 days into the journey by Captain Beach, who announced, "Now at last I can tell you we are going on a voyage which all submariners have dreamed of ever since they possessed the means of doing so. We have the ship, we have the crew. We are going around the world non-stop, and we are going to do it entirely submerged." The mission was difficult, with the crew overcoming mechanical, health, and other challenges, but they were triumphant and completed their secret mission on April 25, 1960. Triton remained submerged and continued to Spain to deliver a plaque in tribute of Magellan's and Triton's historic voyages. The Latin inscription on the plaque translates to, "Hail, noble captain, it is done again." Triton was in service for nearly 10 years and performed several important missions, demonstrating the capabilities of first-generation nuclear-powered submarines. Some of Triton's other deployments include NATO exercises in the European waters, focused on detecting Soviet bombers in the Arctic. This deployment culminated with a port visit to the Bremerhaven, West Germany, from October 2nd to the 9th, 1960. Around 8,000 people toured Triton during its port of call, the first by a nuclear power ship to the European port. Triton arrived in Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Maine in June of 1962 for conversion from a radar picket to an attack submarine. Beginning in April 1964, Triton served as the flagship for Submarine Force Atlantic Fleet and operated in that role until June of 1967. After nearly a decade of service, Triton was decommissioned on May 3rd, 1969. Over the years, 857 crew members have served aboard. I now invite Summers Mia back to the podium to introduce all of our USS Triton veterans that are here today.
Triton vets, please stand when your name is called, and I'll also invite you up front, in front of the sail, for a group photo once I read all the names. Edwin Birmingham, David Bowe, Fred Borgman, Captain James Carey, who is a Richland resident, Colvin Cal Cochran, Donald Cook, Gary Dowry, Michael McCoy, Elmer Norwood, Harold Oberg, Alan Staub, Alan Steele, Joe Tarza, another Tri-Cities resident, William Wells, and John Wicks. I also just wanted to say hello to several family members joining us via our live stream that we have running right now, including Harold Weston, who served aboard Triton from 1961 as captain of the boat. Harold, hello. We wish you were here. We miss you, but we hope you're doing well and glad you're joining us.
Triton veterans, welcome to the Tri-Cities. And to the men and women of the Port of Benton, I say, on behalf of the Triton veterans, thank you. Thank you very much for putting up this beautiful wall and, in fact, having this beautiful memorial here for our ship. This is something special. I think as you look at Triton's history, you can see that fate has intervened. Dan has told us several of the things, the submerged circumnavigation and the other special operations. Triton was especially blessed by fate to do that. But I want to reflect on one other aspect of faith for Triton, because Triton was decommissioned in 1969 and wasn't cut up until about 2010. That's a long time for a submarine once decommissioned to sit around. And I think fate was stepping in because they were waiting to cut the ship up until the Port of Benton was ready to look for a submarine sale. And fortunately, they came together and we have this beautiful, beautiful memorial. And Triton veterans, to have our names on a plaque like this is indeed something special. Thank you. Thank you.
Any others before John comes up? Okay. All right. Here they come.
I want to thank the city here for a great thing you put on here to remember this sail. But one of the things I want to tell all you civilians is, you know what? When you got a little young wife about 20 years old, she said, "How long you gonna be gone, honey?" I says, "You know what, darling, I really don't know, but we've been loading stores for about 2 weeks, and I can't even walk the submarine because we got everything stacked in the passageways." And we didn't have oxygen generators on the Triton. We had mining candles. If you don't know what a mining candle is, you need to look it up because that's what we had to breathe with, you know. Also, my wife says, "What are we gonna do for money?" I said, "You know what? They're making us fill out all these envelopes and they're gonna mail you a check." So that is one of my great stories about people always ask me, "How'd you know how long he's gonna be gone?" Only way we know is how many stores we load. Thank you very much. Thank you for, hey, I like these Congress people, you know. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Gary Dowry, and when I served on there, I'm going to tell you a story about that thing right there. We had been out to sea to, I think it was to check this new screw that they had put on because a tug hit us coming in. And we're coming back up the river, and if I recall, it was snowing. And I was wetting the heavy on the other side for number 2 line, and I hear all back emergency. And I look up, and all I see is a black sail and a red running light. I dove in there. Well, when we get back, the next day they had a critique, and they realized that running light, where is it? Right there. EB had put the reflector in that's behind it in front of it. They thought they were overtaking us. Now when we reported green light and red light, there's a hole in the top, we could see it. But they thought they were overtaking us. We didn't get hit, but we come close. So that's my story about the sail.
Hi, my name is Mike McCoy. I served on the Triton from 1965 to up to about the decommissioning in '69, and I started to go to the reunions in year 2000, and I met some real heroes like Captain Beach, Cal, Dave Bowe. These guys went around the world. They're plank owners, and that's really special. Plank owners is in the Navy is when the boat goes in the water, the people who go in the water, they're the plank owners. So the Triton, we were saying, only under 10 years, but for the last 56 years, we've been having reunions. And I didn't start going, like I said, till 2000. And I want to thanks to the people that kept our spirit going all these years. I said I started in 2000, but there were reunions before that. I really want to give thanks to Harold Jackson and the chief, Harold Weston, because they really did the heavy lifting from 2004 to 2016 reunions. That's a lot of work that that we're only having 16 people signed up for this one. We used to have 100 people, and there was funds and everything that they had to handle. And I also want to thanks our wives, our partners that came, accompanied us for all these reunions. So thank you very much.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ed Birmingham. I was a sonarman in the mid-60s, and I'm delighted to be here to see this sail again, and to thank you all of the people who have set this up. I was, part of my job as a sonarman, believe it or not, I was a shark shooter sitting on the top of that sail with an M14 rifle. And also I've spent a lot of time on the helm in here, so I'm looking forward to get a tour and see where I sat all those many years ago. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi everybody, it's really great to see you guys, especially we got nice weather for it. My name is David Bowe, and my little story is when I was a young man in high school, I read a book called Run Silent, Run Deep, written by Captain Beach. And I said, when I graduate, I'm going in the Navy, and I'm going to volunteer for submarine duty. Well, I graduated from submarine school in December of '58. I reported on board Triton, and when did I report on board Triton? No. I'm getting to that age, folks. January of '59, and lo and behold, who was the skipper? It was Ned Beach. And I'll never forget, I finally got the courage up because I was just a seaman and he's a four-stripe captain. In those days, you didn't really approach him too much. But we were at sea, and he was sitting in the wardroom, and I was heading back to the after torpedo room. And I stopped in and I says, "Captain, can I speak to you for a moment?" He said, "Yeah." So I told him a story about how I wound up on submarine duty. And he looked up at me, and Ned was kind of a stoic person. And he puts his hands on his hips and he just growled. He says, "Well, that's just fine, Bo, that's just fine." Well, years later, one of the reunions, when after Ned had passed away, we had a reunion, and I had to tell his wife, what was her name? Ingrid, thank you. And when I was a young man, this woman was beautiful, and I had a big crush on the captain's wife. That's a no-no. Anyhow, but that's all I had was a crush. And so she was sitting on the other side of the dance floor, and I wanted to share that story with her. So I walked over and I said, "Mrs. Beach," now mind you, she's in her 90s, and I wasn't even working on the cane then. And I related the story to her. She goes, "Well, that sounds just like Ned." She says, "But you know, Mr. Bowe," she says, "I thought you were going to come over here and ask me to dance." So I said, "Okay, but it's got to be a real slow one." But I won't take up any more of my time, but I just want everybody to know my little story there. And again, God bless you all for being here. I grew up on this submarine. I spent 6.5 years on it. I reported aboard as a seaman apprentice reservist, which is kind of like this, and left there as a first-class standing diving officer watches. And I knew I had to leave when the third commanding officer came into control room one day and gave an order, and I looked at him like, "Well, who the hell are you? This is my boat. I give the orders." I knew I had to go. Thank you, everybody.
Bo was the king of the after torpedo room. We reported aboard when we came down the after torpedo room, we'd salute him. So listen, I'm going to start off with a quote that the greatest first baseman in the history of baseball said. It was July 4th, 1939. And he said, and by the way, he had taken himself out of the game in May because he was experiencing some very difficulties physically. Turns out he had ALS, or, as we call it today, Lou Gehrig's disease. At any rate, he said, I feel, let me get it exactly right, I'm the luckiest man on the face of the world, on the face of the earth, excuse me. I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And here's a guy that's, 2 years later was dead at the age of 38. He said this, he was 36 years old. I feel that way today. I've had an absolutely wonderful life. At 83 next month, I know, I'm not going to be around another 50 years. And I owe so much of the wonderful things in my life to this piece of steel back here and just joining the Navy. Joining the Navy and then getting the luck to go on Triton was really fantastic. Literally, so many things have come, as a payback for that decision. And I'm so happy that this has all come to culmination. Thank you, Porter Benton and Summers. I was young and dumb kid, 19 years old. Yeah, we all were. What happened to that? Now we're still dumb, but we're old. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the bottom line is, listen, this has been a 2.5-year-old project, basically. And I'm just so proud to witness this ceremony wall. So just a couple of things, a blank flashback of what I was on. First thing was I came on board, I think May 12th or something like that of 1962. And less than 24 hours later, I'm kind of skippy-doing through control. And from control, you went into cruise, where we slept, okay? And then we went down into cruise mess, and I'm going along and I'm whistling. I'm whistling on a submarine. All of a sudden, I heard this, "Hey, sailor." I thought it was coming, I thought God was actually talking down. And I had my foot up, I was stopped midair, And it turns out it was Captain Moran, and he says, "On my submarine, we don't whistle." I said, "Aye, Captain." Guess what? No more whistles. That was the end of that. I was a Mark 101 fire control technician. I was like the Westinghouse repairman. The machine never broke. So I sat there and pretended like I'd be working on it sometimes, just so people didn't get envious of what the heck I was not doing. Anyway, it was a great field. But then my maneuvering watch was the best on the ship, best on the boat, I should say, because I was up there topside, all the way up in the top with the captain, and the two lookouts, and we take the boat out or bring the boat in. And all I had to do was listen to the captain and repeat any order that he said. Because submarines have backups. We have a primary, we always have a secondary, we always have an out. And so if the two commands came down and didn't match, they'd ask for it to be, reworded. Say again. And it was thrilling to work with George Moran. He was a great captain. Mr. Salt. Just a little background. Beach had 12 World War II cruises, 12 of them, combat cruises. Moran had 5. The last 2 were too young to be in World War II. But George Moran was a real salt, and I really appreciated being around him. And And just a little thing about Dale Ellingwood. I mentioned we'd come back to him a little bit. Hal and I, as I mentioned, it come back and we talked to him. And that was probably the biggest traumatic thing that went on with Triton, with me anyway there, when he passed on, because it really dawned on you that we all are living on the edge. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, thank God we're getting older. And, but life can be that way. We're here today and click, 23 years old, absolutely in the prime of his life. And he really personified only the good die young, because this guy was an angel. Really, really, really nice man. I could go on and on, but they're going to start throwing rocks at me here. I'd like to wrap up with, I'd like to ask Summers to come up. So, this was my fourth daughter, by the way. When we started this project, it was really a phone call. And I introduced myself, she introduced herself, and we started talking. They've got a wonderful website, as you guys have known. And we started talking about, would it be neat? It's got everything on that website, but really nothing about the crew. I mean, it talked about the captains, of course, some people, but it really didn't have any discussion about the crew that much. So, said, if we could get the list of the crew, do you think you could, paste it on or stick it on? She says, sure. She doesn't say a lot sometimes, it's sure. So I went to Jackson, Chief Jackson, and he Bupers had gotten the list, and so I gave her the list in about 4 or 5 blasts. It's a huge, huge list, you can imagine, data, and they transformed it. And if you go, hopefully you've been to the website, and you go down to crew, you hit it, and the page is there, and you can wrap the pages, and we're all on there. So after that, there was another phone call to Summers. Summers, wouldn't it be cool if we could get all those names on that Triton Sail Park sign on the back? Maybe 3 plaques or something like that? Sure. So, and then with Mike and Dave and Howie and everyone got behind it. The crew kind of got behind it, and so she told me, how much it would cost and everything, and I kind of choked. I thought maybe we could, I don't know, do a charity or something. But she was able to propose it to the commission, and with a lot of help, it got pushed through, and here we are. So, but we did say, look, as kind of a symbolic thing, the crew would like to at least donate $1 for everyone here, i.e. $857, 857 people, to have this thing, to be part of the team, to scrape off a little meat. I don't know who I give that to, you or your boss? All right. One other thing while we're here, we'd like to do something special. When you get older, you get a little, as I mentioned, dumber. So I had something done, and it was in my truck. And the day before we were going to fly out, we decided to take a Uber. And so we got on the Uber, got to the airport, and I remembered the thing that I was in the truck, which was for Mia, was still in the truck. And I didn't bring it. But instead, like on a submarine, we always have backups, right? So, Michael?
Crew of USS Triton, SSN 586, hereby designates Summers Mia is now an honorary U.S. Triton shipmate. Yeah. Over the past recent years towards the successful conclusion of the commemorative wall honoring Triton veterans has been remarkable. In addition, the crew has concluded that Summers has completed all submarine qualifications required and therefore been awarded submarine dolphins. Awarded on this date, June 14, 2005, to Summers Mia, USS Triton, SSN 586, Chief PO Officer, Submarine Qualified.
Yeah, she actually became honorary a year and a half ago at our reunion in Charleston, but we wanted to get it. I'll send that in the mail, I promise. It's a big, nice, it's a gorgeous plaque, by the way. I expect a picture back of that behind your desk, okay? And also we have gold dolphins, okay? We made you an officer. You know, Jim was the only one here that was an acting officer on board. We had a couple of other officers, though, that became LDOs, very proud of them. But we made you also an LDO, okay? Congratulations. Once again, thanks to everyone, especially, again, the Port of Benton Commission, and especially the Executive Chairman, Diane Howard. It's really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is so wonderful. I'd also like to just take a quick moment. He's not here, but the reason Triton is here is retired Commissioner Robert Larson really fought to bring Triton to Richland. So I'd just like to take a moment to recognize him today. Before I bring up our next guest, I just wanted to call your attention to the American flag that's directly in front of the commemorative wall. Congressman Newhouse obtained this flag, which flew over the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., in honor of today's event. Thank you to Congressman Newhouse and his staff. What an honor, especially because today is Flag Day. Now, please help me welcome Ashley Stubbs from Congressman Dan Newhouse's office.
Thank you, Diane. Yes, as Diane mentioned, my name is Ashley Stubbs. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff and District Director for Congressman Dan Newhouse. And in preparation for today, in thinking what I would talk about, I came up with a theory that I would like to share with all of you, and that is that as a lifelong Tri-Citian, I think that there are 3 distinct phases that you move through when you grow up or live in the Tri-Cities. The first is, as a child, you are aware of Hanford, that it is important in some way, right? It's a big deal, but it just exists out there in the ether. Maybe your parents worked there or your friends' parents worked there. Phase 2 happens in high school or college, and that's when you take a few history classes, or you see the movie Oppenheimer, and you start to realize that it actually is a big deal. That the Hanford site, the plutonium, and the Manhattan Project were pivotal moments in the history of mankind. It's a double-edged sword, though. Yes, thank you. It's a double-edged sword, though, because Hanford is such a big deal that it starts to overshadow other things in the community. Phase 3 happens on days like today with projects like the Triton Sail Park and the commemorative wall, and it happens because of people like Diane and Summers and the Port of Benton, who make it a point to make sure that the history that's incredible in our backyard doesn't get overshadowed by Hanford. Congressman Newhouse entered a statement into the official United States Congressional Record yesterday, so if you feel so inclined to go read the Congressional Record online, just look for June 13th, 2025, and I'm happy to read that now. Mr. Speaker, I rise today for 2 reasons: to honor the crew members who served aboard the USS Triton SSR 9586 submarine, and to commend the Port of Benton for commissioning a new commemorative wall honoring the Triton and her crew. Commissioned in 1959, the USS Triton holds a special place in the history of the U.S. Navy. Powered by 2 nuclear reactors, the Triton was the first submarine to complete a submerged circumnavigation of the globe. During the Cold War, the Triton was a vital part of the Navy's defense strategy as a leader in peace and security around the world. The members who served aboard her were at the forefront of this mission, often enduring long months of isolation and unpredictable conditions aboard the vessel. But their shared dedication and expertise led them to achieve one of the most groundbreaking missions in naval history. The USS Triton Submarine Memorial Park was formally dedicated in Richland, Washington on November 10th, 2011 to commemorate the submarine and her crew. Central Washington is proud to be home to this piece of our nation's history, and I thank the Port of Benton for honoring the crew members and preserving their legacy. So I would like to show you, this is the official congressional record as it has been entered into the United States Congress. And I'm very pleased that we have a copy for all of the veterans who served aboard her here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Now, please help me welcome State Senator Nikki Torres.
I'll move this down. There we go. Well, thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your service as well. And I know I was meeting and speaking with some of you today in the first two rows, some of you and your family. It is truly my honor to meet you and your families because you've traveled across the country today to be here. So thank you. It is an incredible privilege to be here honoring heroes who once traveled the world unseen to protect the freedoms we enjoy today. The USS Triton wasn't just a marvel of American engineering. It was a floating home for many brave sailors, some of which came from this very town. They answered the call without headlines or fanfare, a mission so secret they were unable to tell their families, not even their wives or children. This wall ensures that what was once done in silence will now be remembered out loud, with pride, with honor, and with deep gratitude. To every veteran and every family here today, thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Next up, please help me welcome State Representative Stephanie Barnard. Rep. Barnard is Ranking Minority Member for the Technology, Economic Development, and Veteran Affairs Committee. Rep. Barnard.
It's an honor to serve as ranking member of the Veterans Committee in the State House of Representatives, but it's definitely more of an honor to be here with you today. And I did have some prepared remarks, but I set them aside because the feelings that I'm having are I'm feeling extremely grateful. And so those feelings of gratitude, while overwhelming, as I had a few minutes to meet with some of the veterans and their families that served here today, I say goodbye to my son in August as he's joined the Navy to serve in the Navy submarine program. And I feel such gratitude for you and the sacrifices that you've made. I remember bringing my son here, excuse me, I remember bringing my son here to this park to visit Triton. And what an incredible piece of machinery that it is. But more than that, it's the people that served in the Triton and why they served in the Triton. Why? What's the reason? Why do we give our sons to this cause, our sons and daughters to this cause, the cause of freedom, to where you're willing to sacrifice everything and live in a submarine, for crying out loud? Why would you do that? I mean, my son is 6'2", and I just don't get it. But there is a calling. There is this legacy that you have left for him. And when we went inside and looked at the Triton, I could tell there was a spark in him. He was just in elementary school at the time, and then he went to middle school, and we came back. For some reason, there was a pull. That pull is not this piece of metal. That pull is you. That's why he wants to be a nuclear submariner. That's why he wants to serve, is because of the legacy that you left. And I am just filled with gratitude. and so grateful for the Port of Benton, Diane Howard and her team, but especially for our vets. The legacy that you have left makes America strong. And it's because of you that we have the freedoms that we have. And I couldn't be more grateful. And on days like today, when I think about my son leaving, it gives me strength. Thank you for your honor. Thank you for your courage. And thank you for your sacrifice.
Thank you, Rep. Barnard. Now please join me in welcoming City of Richland Mayor Teresa Richardson.
Good morning, everyone. What a special day, and it's been impressive to see multiple generations coming to Richland. We really welcome you and are so privileged to have you here. We come to honor and reflect. Today we unveil more than just a wall. It's been very clear to hear your story that it's a lasting tribute to the brave men who served aboard the USS Triton. This commemorative wall, engraved with the names of every officer and crew member, stands as a powerful reminder of your dedication, your courage, your sacrifices made to serve our country. It's especially meaningful to host this event on Flag Day, a day that reminds us of the values of our flag, what it represents: unity, freedom, and service. The USS Triton is not just a piece of naval history, it's a testament to the American innovation and resilience. The testimony of the Triton lives on in Richland, not only in stone and steel, but to a community that continues to lead in science, technology, and forward-thinking progress. This USS Triton Sail Park is one of a kind, state-of-the-art venue that will draw thousands of visitors every year. Tourists, veterans, students, and families all come to this site to experience a piece of history, to reflect, and to learn. This park has become yet a quiet but powerful point of pride for our city. It will boost tourism and deepen our identity as a community that remembers, honors, and educates. This wall, this park would not be possible without strong partnerships, especially with the Port of Benton and many veterans and community advocates who saw the importance of preserving this history for future generations. On behalf of the city, we thank you. To the veterans and families of USS Triton, this wall is for you. Your names are now etched in stone, but your legacy has already been etched in our hearts. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and allowing us to share your story. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson. Next, please join me in welcoming Bob Schutz, Energy Northwest CEO and retired U.S. Navy officer. Bob?
I promise to be brief, I hope. I've lived in the Tri-Cities for 14 years, and it probably took me 5 years before I figured out this memorial is even here, even though I only lived a few blocks away. And I remember thinking to myself, what an odd place for a submarine memorial to be. And then I think it was Diane who said, it's not odd. This is the largest submarine home port in the world. We got 100 submarines about 5 miles down the road, at least what's left of them. But, as I thought about that, it really isn't odd, is not odd. If you think about what the Tri-Cities is about, we're about innovation. Ashley already mentioned Manhattan Project and the Hanford Works. We have Pacific Northwest National Labs here that has, God knows, thousands of patents and is inventing new stuff every day. We have Washington State University Tri-Cities, top-notch education and engineering and the sciences, and they're really leading the whole Wazoo system in looking at the future of energy. Even the Port of Benton bringing new and exciting technologies, green fertilizer, if you can believe it. I have to explain that probably, and all the other new things that are coming. My own company, we're going to build small modular reactors just a couple miles from here. And so I look at Triton and I think of the same thing. How much innovation crammed into one submarine hull, right? Only submarine to ever have, only U.S. submarine to have 2 reactors, only U.S. nuclear submarine to have 2 screws, propulsion screws. The radar that was on this is kind of a one of a kind. You know, if you look back in the 50s when this ship was built, if you were going to do an air search radar, you typically had 2 radars, one to look in azimuth and one to look in elevation. Triton had one of the very first radars that was electronically steered in elevation, and they could do it with just 1 antenna. I was shocked to hear that you made a 60-day submerged cruise without an oxygen generator. I just can't picture that. Burning candles for 60 days, it must have been miserable. But anyway, just you know, a really great story of innovation, which makes it a perfect match for the Tri-Cities. Maybe one other unusual thing some of you may not know about, you know, in the military, when you have an individual award, the Medal of Honor is the top of the step. And but for organizations, it's the Presidential Unit Citation, or PUC. Couple of odd things about it. It's the only award or ribbon where the stripes are horizontal. Everything else in the military, they're all vertical stripes. But in the whole history of the nation, since that's been an award, there are 2 special awards. Exactly 2 organizations have received a special clasp, little pin that they get to put on their ribbon. First one was USS Nautilus, which got to put a little gold N on their ribbon for their sailing over the North Pole. And then Triton has a gold or bronze globe for their submerged navigation around the world, following the route of Magellan, if you didn't know that. So an amazing honor for an amazing crew. Just to close up here, I didn't see a benediction on the agenda, so I'm going to take a chance that Diane doesn't have one set. And I like to just read a verse from the Navy hymn. Now, Navy hymn is a beautiful song, deserves to be sung. I can normally carry many things, but a tune isn't one of them. So I'm just going to read it for you. And this is the submarine verse. So for all of you, all of your shipmates who couldn't be with you today, the 52 crews that were lost during World War II and our eternal patrol, and the others as well. So bless those who serve beneath the deep, through lonely hours their vigil keep. Make peace their mission ever be. Protect each one, we ask of thee. Bless those at home who wait and pray for their return, be night or day.